welcome. It's really exciting. Welcome to have you all here at our mentoring kickoff webinar. Just some housekeeping rules before we start. So we've got mics and videos muted and off, and if you can please keep them that way. But we do have the chat open the entire time during this session, and that's to facilitate any questions. If you have any questions during the session, please feel free to put them there, and we'll be monitoring that chat to make sure that your questions are answered. So I hope everyone is staying safe in these COVID times. It feels a bit different, especially if you're tuning in from Sydney. It feels like COVID's been right at our doorstep this time, and it's been a little harder, if I must say so myself, being in one of the affected local government areas. So I hope everyone's keeping safe. Really excited to bring this event to you all today. It's really exciting to be able to introduce formally our speed mentoring program for young professionals. Now, my name's Hayat. If you haven't met me before, I'm University Relations Officer for AusYGN. And despite being I'll be facilitating today's program with our lovely guest speakers, Emma and Lisa, who I'll be introducing soon. And despite being the face of today's kickoff, I do want to acknowledge that there is an amazing team behind today's event and the success and planning of our next steps and future steps for the program. So a call out to Kira, Caitlin and Shakila. We've been working in the background to bring you today, and I hope you find it impactful and enjoyable. So the way today will be structured is we'll first start off with just a bit about the why. So why did AusYGN choose to undertake this speed mentoring program, and what do we wish to achieve with that? Then we'll be opening up, and I'll be introducing our guest speakers, where we'll go for a Q&A session for about 40 minutes. And we have an experienced mentor, Emma Cushing, and her mentee as well, where Emma's been mentoring Lisa for about 3 years now. So it'll be fantastic, where we'll get to hear both insights and perspectives from the both of them. And I'm hoping that through the questions that I've brought with me today and the questions that you guys post for us in the chat today, that we'll have a really useful discussion, and we'll be able to answer everyone's questions about the program and mentoring in general. So after we finish the Q&A, we'll probably leave about 10 minutes at the end of the session, where we'll just go through some admin of, the top tips that we'll be giving you for establishing a mentoring relationship. Also, how AusYGN will be supporting you, what are the next steps, and how to make sure that you know how to navigate this moving forward. So with that all gone through, I will start us off with the why. So AusYGN decided to come up and work on this mentoring program in line with one of our many objectives. If you haven't seen the AusYGN website, I do recommend you all visit it and go through and see the work that we do. And one of the objectives that we have is to promote transfer of knowledge between different generations of nuclear professionals. And we thought, what better way than to develop a mentoring program where we can link our members with those who are really experienced in this industry and even related industries, to be able to transfer generations of knowledge and support and guide those that are AusYGN members today. We hope that with the mentoring program, we'll be able to encourage self-awareness of both your personal and professional development goals. It's not an easy conversation, and it's probably easier for people to ask you, what your goals, but coming up with a goal is quite hard. And we're hoping that, having someone to support you along your way, it will help give some self-awareness to both the professional and personal goals that you'd like to work on in your career. We hope that this facilitates a great learning opportunity with our experienced mentors. We're really excited because the mentors that are signing up to date have such a vast variety of experience. So we know that we have a massive knowledge base that we'll be able to tap into and help set up mentees so that they are successful in this mentoring program. This mentoring program should be able to support both a mutually beneficial relationship for the mentor and mentee, and help foster focus and engagement in your everyday role. Because I know myself that, I've had so many people who have made an impact to my life, and, I've been mentored formally and informally, and it really does make a big difference. You do feel much more focused and engaged in your role. You feel supported, and you feel like you have someone that can guide you. And I guess that's the aim of a mentoring program and what we're hoping to really be able to deliver to you all today. So with that, I'd love to introduce our guest speakers. We have Emma Cushing and Lisa Matthews. I'm sure you've read their bios when you registered for this event. So I'm gonna start off with Emma, and instead of going through her incredible bio, because I'm sure you guys all have heaps of questions about her career and her journey, but today I'd like to give a bit more of a personal introduction. Emma's quite special to me personally, and I'm forever grateful as I have evolved so much as an engineer and have picked up resilience and grown in such a way, in a way that uni really doesn't teach you, because of her. She was my official mentor as part of my first role, and we've kept in touch ever since. And she's been able to support me in a myriad of areas where I've had to navigate between like stakeholder management, having difficult conversations, challenging technical ideas effectively and respectfully. That's all just a fraction of a massive impact that she's left on me personally. She's clever, inspiring, and a resilient role model, and it's so exciting to have her here today. Welcome, Emma. And
Hayat, thank you. That's a very nice introduction, and it's a little bit like you've made me sound amazing, and I think my photo is also making me look a lot more amazing than what the rest of us are looking like working from home at the moment. So it's an interesting parallel, but it's a pleasure to be here. So great to be a part of it.
It's a pleasure to have you, and not an understatement at all, and all very true words. And I hope you are all today leaving inspired as Emma has inspired me and many others. And speaking of many others, we have Lisa. Lisa's been a mentee, so Emma has mentored her for about 3 years now. I'm also lucky to personally know Lisa. She's an incredibly clever systems engineer and a good friend of mine. I too, like her, started off at ResMed as one of my first jobs after university. And while we were there together, we used to support each other and exchange learnings. And she's such a passionate individual, really passionate about improving the lives of patients and also promoting diversity in STEM. So she's incredibly inspiring herself too, and we're very lucky to have her and lucky to be able to have both perspectives as part of this Q&A today to give us insights into both the mentor and mentee relationship. So welcome, Lisa.
Thanks, Hayat. Really excited to be a part of this. I think it's going to be great.
No problem. Thank you. And thank you for both being on board. What I'm just going to do now is I'm going to just stop sharing my slides so that everyone can see us three really well as part of the Q&A. So bear with me. Has that worked out, Emma, Lisa?
Yep, great.
Perfect. Amazing. Okay. Emma, we're going to start with you today. So I'm just going to make sure I have the conversation opened as well. A reminder that, we're taking live questions, so feel free to post any questions, and I will make sure I squeeze them in with the kind of script that I have here today. So Emma, why do you believe having a mentor or being a mentor is important?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big question, right? Because there is a bit of time, I guess, that you need to dedicate to it. I think I was fortunate enough when I started out my career. One of the second job that I had was working with Johnson & Johnson. And I personally was given a mentor who was the 2 IC at the company for ANZ. And her and I hit it off very well. And I guess we had a broad ranging conversation at our regular touch points. And I know personally that it had a huge impact on me. And I think that, it just speaks volumes to the fact that you almost need to have that neutral party, right? Like you might go home and you might have people at home that you can talk to about things and they care for you deeply. But of course, there will always be that emotional connection, that sense of they may not have that neutrality in the way that they're going to answer. And I think we need to have that objectivity, and we need that external third party who has that. Not to mention they have their own life experience, and obviously in that regard it was from a business perspective. And yeah, so I think that sort of struck me, that it made a big impression on me and it made a difference to my career. And so, subsequently down the track, when I had the opportunity to play the role of a mentor, I thought that not only is it that sense of giving back, but I do think that there's actually a huge amount that you can learn on both sides of the equation, to be perfectly honest. So, and I think when we're younger or less experienced in the workforce, there's so much that we question about ourselves and we wonder if we're doing the right thing.
Right.
And, you know, I think, unfortunately, if we just really learn to get on with it, and in fact, you're doing just fine, or to take that risk, but you often need someone just to say, yeah, it's fine to do that, because it can be really daunting and really quite overwhelming. And to have someone who's a little more senior, who's got a little more life experience, that you mention that concept to, or that, you know, that thought or whatever it is that's bothering you, and for them to say, absolutely, go for it, that is a great idea, or, you know, consider this aspect or whatever. I think it gives you license to go and do it. It removes that moment of doubt. So I think it's that objectivity, that neutrality, and then making sure you've got that person in your corner. They're in your corner, and it just helps you to step back up and do whatever it is that you need to do. So I think it's a huge opportunity. I think those individuals can do and achieve so much without a mentor, no doubt. But I think what it does, it almost perhaps speeds up development. You might trundle along wondering if you should, considering maybe, you know, what it does is it gives you that conversation, it makes it happen quicker, perhaps puts you on the spot, creates timelines around some of these things. So it often, I think, helps you to move forward, just make it a little quicker. Oh, I apologise.
That's okay.
It's probably bandwidth having, yeah.
Yep, all good. Yeah, fantastic. I think we're hearing you now. Yeah, I think that's a fabulous answer, and it's so true. It's kind of about having that, you know, really someone on the sidelines there for you with a vast amount of experience, right? And you get to tap into that. Lisa, do you agree? Why do you believe it's important to consider mentoring to support you during your career? You know, from a mentee's perspective, what can you add to what Emma said?
Yeah, I definitely agree with what Emma has said. I think professionally having this objective viewpoint on your career and kind of helping you identify what your strengths and weaknesses are and where you should focus your energy has been really helpful, especially someone outside the team you work in as well. And I think on like a personal level, just having that person there to go to and the support that you can ask kind of silly questions to, I think that has also being really useful as well. So I think, yeah, personally and professionally, it's
smiling
definitely,
and going, yep. We've all been there.
All the silly questions I've asked.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think both of those aspects have been really important for me.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And Emma, why did you choose to be a mentor? Is there anyone who's made a personal impact on your career and journey so far? Was it like a flick of a light switch? Did you always know? Was it your calling? Tell us a bit more about why you chose, to be a mentor.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think there's definitely been people who have had an impact on me. And often I think it's the same with life, in fairness. There's people for whom they will make one comment, one throwaway line, and it can actually change the way you think about things and the way you approach things. And I think that what a mentor specifically does is they might do that, but it's a more structured relationship. And I think that with the trust that you build up, I was laughing when Lisa mentioned the silly questions concept, because in truth, there really aren't any silly questions, because we've all been there. And in fact, all those concerns and fears and considerations that you think, oh, will I mention it? You know, everyone goes through that, right? So yes, in your moment in time, it feels like that's a silly question, but in truth, you know, I had that silly question at that point in my career. I might still have it now. So it's not silly at all. It's actually quite reasonable. I think being self-aware and considering is a really good thing. But in terms of why did I think there's a lot to be gained from being a mentor, not just to be mentored, be the mentee. It's actually also incredibly rewarding to have a conversation where you're challenging that person and you're watching them take it on board and consider it, and then go forth and actually make an impact in the world and change their space accordingly. So it is really a very rewarding thing. And I think that having had that opportunity myself, I definitely felt like I got a lot out of that. And it made perfect sense for me to do it. And I don't think that there's anything that I was destined to do. I do enjoy doing it. And if I can add value to others, considering that was done for me, I'm so happy to do it. Yeah.
Yep. Amazing. And Lisa, I'm going to ask you a bit of a tough one, but were you ever hesitant in having a mentor? I think it's, some people err on the side of caution when considering this, maybe out of fear even. Do you feel that now? Do you feel the same way now? If that was the case, has your perspective changed? What would you say to someone who's feeling a bit reluctant about the whole concept?
Yeah, I think at first I thought the whole concept was a little bit awkward, to be honest. I think kind of the idea of meeting up with this stranger and kind of telling them all your fears and problems and trusting them with your development, I think is the big deal. But that certainly became easier and easier over time. And I think the more you meet up with your mentor or mentee, the more comfortable the relationship becomes. And it really is kind of a safe place, which is great. So I'd say, I think the last part of your question was for anyone who is hesitant. I think I would encourage everyone to dive straight in. And I think, yeah, it's definitely the initial kind of awkwardness or hesitation there is certainly worth what you get out of having a mentor-mentee relationship.
You said the word safe place. I want to just capture that for a second because it's a really good starter to the next question. But before I do, let's not forget that one because we do have a question online. Caitlin has asked, Emma, I believe this is for you. As a mentor, how do you know you're giving your mentee the right advice?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Caitlin. I guess the answer, truthfully, is you don't know. You don't know. I think it's really based a lot around life experience and a sense for, I think you have to get to know them reasonably well, and you get a sense for what their fears are, what their constraints are, why are they holding back, what is it that's keeping them there. And I would actually draw the analogy with parenting. In some regards, as a parent, you do what you think is right at the point in time, and often you don't know whether or not you've done a good job of that until your kids are older and become adults, and then you can see what you've given to them. But and to a certain extent, there's that truth would exist as well, as in you're watching your mentees, you're watching them progress. But I do think you get fairly decent feedback, not just from them as to conversational, but also you're getting to watch how they're being received. You can ask for, you've had this fear about going into meetings and speaking up at the wrong time and, I don't know anything, should I even say anything? That sort of conversation where you then talk through how do they manage that? How do they deal with that? And then your next conversation, after you've given perhaps suggestions around how to manage that, the next conversation could include, okay, how did you go in the last month? Did you have another meeting where, you felt fearful of putting your hand up, saying something? Oh, yeah, I did. And so what did you do? How did you get around that? So you can get that quite quick feedback to know whether or not what you're asking of them is too much. So there's no doubt, Lisa will without doubt tell you that I have pushed her to do some things that she might have otherwise found a little bit confronting. But, I'll call it out as that. I will say, I appreciate that I'm sort of pushing you to do this. But at the end of the day, she doesn't have to do it. But in truth, I know that there has been that sense of, well, there's someone who is holding me accountable. Whereas if we were thinking, oh, I really should, that accountability means that it comes back up in conversation. And if it really was too much to have given her, then she would have said, I just couldn't do it. I wasn't ready for it. No problem. Then we'll break it down further. But I think there is a decent feedback loop. And at the end of the day, I guess it's falling back on that experience and that ability to read between the lines. And if that person says one thing, but they're actually meaning something else, it's up to me to pick up on that. And I guess, that just comes with a bit of time and experience. And I do think also that not all mentee and mentor relationships are going to be perfect. They will not all be absolutely fantastic, right? And I think the majority will be, but there would always be the potential that it might not quite be the right person. interestingly enough, I think that the mentoring relationship is usually a shorter time frame. So without doubt, it's probably a more unusual situation in that I have had a longer interaction with Lisa and Hayat and another girl called Kate that I interact with. But I think traditionally, and if I'm not mistaken, Hayat, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think what would happen for this particular program, where you would get a mentor and it would go through till I think the latter part of towards the end of this year, not quite the end. And so what it does is it really compresses that down, and it gives you an opportunity to work with that individual, because let's face it, me as a mentor, I'm going to identify certain things about your character and I will work on those things. But I might entirely overlook something else that actually needs to be dealt with as well. And then you would be best to go and speak to some, have another mentor that might pick up on those things as well. So I wouldn't ever fear that there would be poor advice. I would think that no matter what goes on, that conversation is going to challenge your sense of self. It's going to challenge your next steps, your approach. And even if that's all it did, there is still value to be had in that. I hope that answers it, Caitlin. Feel free to put more in the chat if you want to.
Yeah, while we wait for Caitlin to tell us if she has any further questions, yeah, we are leaving it up to, I'm going to be talking a bit more about this in the slides after, but we are leaving it up to the mentor and mentee to define that period, and are really advocating for a shorter period, as you said. And yeah, it may be that someone feels that they will have long-term contact, or they'll just end up naturally having long-term contact, the same as we've had with you. But I guess that just happens naturally as well, and it is definitely more effective to have that short period where you've got your goals and you have the opportunity to have different people make an impact on your life and your career.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've sort of chosen for it to continue, and it's also the way that we have it at the moment is more of a very casual arrangement. There's no longer a formalized arrangement. So it's almost just literally a, hey, how are you going? Like touch point in life, which is great,
Yep.
But it's not that formal arrangement. I would think that the formal arrangement that you're organising here, I do think that timeframe, that shorter timeframe is really great. And I would definitely encourage people to get what they get from that individual, and then, move on, and next year do the same thing with someone else. Yeah.
Yeah, fabulous. We've got another question online as well. How do you find a mentor? Is from Nicola. Is there a rule book to finding them?
Well, Lisa tripped over me. She just fell over me. I was sitting down and she fell over me, and that's how we met. And it was like a
You mean you tripped her over, right? You stuck your leg out and
I probably did.
Fell right over.
Probably did.
That sounds more like you, Emma. Yeah.
Yeah, it probably is true, but I'll let Lisa speak to how it was set up at ResMed.
Yeah, so I was pretty lucky. At ResMed, I started on the graduate program. So as a part of that program, we got assigned a mentor. So that's when I was assigned to Emma. But yeah, I guess day to day, I kind of have other informal mentors that I kind of lean on, especially for kind of technical help with my day-to-day work. And I think they've kind of formed organically, I guess. We've worked out kind of who to go to for what, and who's passionate about helping more junior people understand these concepts. And so that's kind of how I've found more kind of informal mentors within the workplace. But outside of that, yeah, I'm not really too sure. I've been pretty lucky having it set up for me with Emma. I don't know, Emma, have you got any other thoughts on that?
No, I think, yeah, it was a formal arrangement, but I agree with you entirely. I think there's huge opportunity in fact, some of the conversations that you and I have had, Lisa, has been around the fact that, particularly since I've left ResMed, it's been about, who else in the business actually, when you've had those gaps in understanding from a technical perspective, okay, who can we identify that would have that knowledge or expertise, and you feel entirely comfortable approaching and saying, hey, can I just grab some time with you? And actually openly saying to them, look, I'm really trying to expand into this area. I want to be more comfortable and confident in this space. I know that you've got a wealth of knowledge and experience. Is there any chance that we could catch up every sort of 4 to 6 weeks for half an hour, just so I can pick your brain about things? And you know, it would be a really rare person that would say no. And I think that those casual arrangements are fantastic. And to Lisa's point, there's that you can have your formal mentor who ultimately I think would be the person that you really divulge those things that Lisa mentioned early on, what you might think of as silly questions. They're not, but those things that are going to be quite personal in terms of, oh gosh, do I talk about this? That's good for your mentor. Hold that for them. But then surround yourself with all these other people who can actually give you a huge amount of value in that more casual arrangement. So I like the way that Lisa's described that. I think there's a huge amount of value, and it's also meaning that you can change that up. Those people will come and go according to what stage in your career or what it is that you need to know about at that time. I would definitely encourage people to proactively reach out. Don't wait for other people who are more senior to say, oh, it looks like you need to, you know, you could do with a bit of help in this space. They're not going to do it. They're too busy. They're probably not even thinking like that. But they will be entirely fine when you reach out to them. You'll be surprised. So I would encourage you not to hold back on that.
Amazing. Fantastic insights from you both. Thank you so much. We're getting fired away with questions, so I've got to scroll up here for the next one. This is from Rhea. As a mentor, what are your expectations of mentees? Example, how to come into a meeting prepared or achieving the goals you set.
Yeah, look, I was very strict with that. I mean, you know, no, I mean, to be fair, I would always have, using Lisa as the example again, I would have her set up the next meeting, and we would, at the end of that meeting, we would have an agreement of what it was that she was doing between now and the next meeting. So, for example, if we come back to that concept of, you know, being very fresh and new to a team and being the most junior person in the team, and gosh, do I even so much as put my hand up or speak in a meeting? How frightening is that? Should I do it? So we might have had a conversation about that, and we might have then said, okay, here's the challenge. So keeping in mind that a mentor's job is to be a little bit more directive than a coach's job. So there's a little bit of a difference between getting a coach and getting a mentor. Sometimes they overlap in the way that people use the phrasing, but in truth, a true mentor is a little bit more directive. So saying, okay, Lisa, from my experience, what I can tell you is you should do X. I mean, I'm being a little, I would hope not, I don't actually say you should do this, but but in truth, I'm going to be quite directive about it. So I will say, okay, so we've all been there, but what I would like you to do between now and a month's time is I want you to find an occasion at every weekly team meeting, an occasion and a reason to say something. I don't care whether you really, really think, oh, I perhaps don't need to say anything. No. You're going to say something, and when we speak in a month, you're going to tell me about how it felt. You're going to tell me how it was received. You're going to tell me what conversation did it generate. And each time you do it, is it going to feel a little bit easier? And did in fact you realise, oh, well, what I had to say was actually important. It opened up a world of conversation where everyone said, oh, that's a good point. Hang on a second, we didn't think of that. So that's what I tended to do. And there was usually 2 or 3 things. And we definitely went back through those things. That was sort of the first, I guess you could say, half of the conversation. And then the second half of the conversation was around, okay, so what else has come up in the last month? What are the things that are on your mind? What else would you think, what's holding you back, or what's something that's come to mind that you now think, I really want to do this thing. How could I make that happen? So that's the sort of structure that we would go with.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. And Patrick's asking, would you recommend seeking a mentor, mentee be in the same field, industry, or a slightly different field? That's a really good question, Patrick. Yeah.
Lisa, do you want to dive in on that one?
Yeah, I could talk about that. Yeah, so I work in the engineering teams, and Emma's worked in kind of clinical business and strategy teams. So we come from quite different backgrounds and do different work day to day. And I think that's actually probably been a bit of a perk. I think, as Emma talked about at the start, having that objective view on your growth and development and career is really useful. And I think just having Emma see things from a very different angle than what I do or the people who I work with day to day do has been really useful as well. So I think either option could work, having them in the same kind of role or outside, but I think there's different benefits to both options.
Perfect. Thank you, Lisa. We have a question from Erin, and actually it's a bit similar to one of the questions I had, so I might add to it in a second form too. So Erin's asked, what are some of the key benefits a mentor can gain from a mentee? And the one I had written is that, some might say that a mentee may need to sometimes play the role of a teacher. Like, is that an absurd statement? And what does it mean? Like, have you ever found that having a mentee meant that you were learning something too?
Yeah, I mean, it's by no means an absurd statement, because I think that a lot of the time you have to reflect on yourself and your own career and where you're at and how you would respond to something and what you might do about it to be able to give advice to that mentee. So, I mean, to Lisa's point about the fact that she is in that engineering space, and I have been traditionally more in the clinical healthcare, marketing strategy type side of things, we come at things from quite different angles. And so in that regard, it's actually quite a good thing for me as well to have to think, well, what are the parallel learnings to be had here? I mean, I've been in these roles and this is how I would approach it, but in fact, that environment might be quite different. So a lot of the time it will open up my eyes to the way in which, so for example, in the tech, say in a tech daily stand-up meeting, there's going to be a way in which they interact, and that might be entirely different to how a marketing team meeting might interact. But even in just her describing that situation, I might learn from, there may be something in that I think, heck, why aren't we doing that in our marketing team meetings, for example? I might introduce that as a concept. I think that's great. So I genuinely think that it really is, there is a lot of opportunity to learn in both directions. But I do think you tend to reassess or think through, well, how did I manage that? And is that the best way? Have I been doing that the best way? What held me back at that point? Have I fully gotten past whatever that constraint might be? So, it's cause for an inflection on yourself as well, I think, which is never going to be a bad thing. Mm-hmm. And perhaps, I guess you said, sorry, Hayat, the comment about the teacher role. To be fair, I'm not sure whether I would label it as that, but regardless of whether I'd label it as that, I still think that there is definitely learnings on both sides, 100%. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And let's say someone's really, really focused on the technical space, they're very passionate about engineering and science. Like, if they don't end up with a technical mentor, is that a waste of their time?
Yeah, in my opinion, definitely not. Are you talking from the mentee or mentor perspective?
Yeah, mentee perspective.
I guess from the mentee perspective, absolutely not. I think some of the biggest kind of hoops you jump through early in your career are things that are transferable across any kind of role. So the example that Emma's been talking about is the speaking up in meetings and stuff like that. So I think those kind of things, the mentor's going to have experience and insight in, and I don't think not having a technical background is a waste of time by any means.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Lisa. And Kevin has a next question for us. Hello, Lisa and Emma. Can you please succinctly share what was the best piece of professional advice you have been given? I like that.
Well, I like how Kevin has asked it to be succinct. Are you telling me something, Kevin? Am I waffling? No problem. I think, interestingly enough, and this is, it's a generic piece of advice, and it's actually only relatively recent in my career, and by that I mean in the last 5 years. And that is to say, we hear the adage, the gift of feedback. It's a little bit sort of cringe, I suppose, but the truth of it is, it's massive. If you can't receive feedback, if it hits you and you think, yeah, right, as if, I mean, if any part of you feels like that, you are going to dismiss it. You will not take the learnings from it. So that is something that I think is really critical. Obviously, if you're going to be a mentee, you're going to get feedback. So you might want to have a think about how that's going to feel, getting that feedback. And then I would say that to be really mindful of the fact that sometimes people will give you feedback, and look, they might be having a bad day and they might be providing feedback in a less than opportunistic moment, in a tone that perhaps is not ideal, and so on and so forth, right? So granted that there will be occasions when probably it wasn't the best time for them to do that, but even still, the truth of it is there will be a nugget, there will be something in what they're saying that will be of value to you. So I think that we would always do well to listen to the feedback we get, no matter how painful it might be at times, and take the nugget from it. Maybe you can let 95% of it go, but there will always be something. So that's the key for me, is trying to make sure that I always do that. Prior, now, continuing.
Lisa, how about you? What's the best advice you've been given?
The one that that comes to the front of my mind at the moment is something Emma actually said to me, and I think it should be taken within context. And I've definitely used it multiple times since she told me, but it's easier to ask for forgiveness than ask for permission. So be careful, but how you use that one. But I think it's definitely something that's helped me in a number of different areas.
See, I might have said that one too, but Kevin asked for one. So
Awesome. Yep, Kevin said thank you very much for that. So the last question we have from the chat before I go back to some that I had, from Juniper for Lisa. As a mentee, what are your top tips for creating a good mentor-mentee relationship?
Yeah, good question. I think just making sure you always follow through with your mentor is a good one. Like, don't let it go too long between catch-ups, and make sure that you're really kind of using your mentor's time wisely, by ensuring that you're actually giving thought to what they're telling you in the catch-ups, and applying the different advice that they give, because yeah, I guess their time's valuable, your time's valuable, so don't waste it. And also just be completely open-minded. I think Emma's said some crazy things over the past few years, but it's really worth taking a very open approach, and just kind of giving those crazy ideas a shot. And I think, yeah, just being open to the whole process and what other people's opinions can, what kind of an impact that they can make, I think is important as well.
Thank you so much, Lisa. And thank you to everyone. Fantastic questions so far. Please keep them coming. They've been so great. I'm going to take us back to that, second question or so, or maybe third, where Lisa, you said the word safe place. How honest are you with a mentor or with your mentor? Do you find that it's awkward or difficult at any point in time when you have conversations with a mentor?
Yeah, I think it can be awkward, particularly at the beginning in those first few catch-ups, because as I said before, in a lot of cases, this person's almost a stranger. You don't know them very well. So talking about your biggest aspirations and kind of areas of concern is a little bit daunting. But I think, yeah, it's good to create this safe space between the mentor and the mentee. So I think one thing that really helped with myself and Emma is that when we'd catch up in person at work, it would never be in a meeting room or anything like that. It would be in a cafe, or we'd go for a walk outside or something like that. So creating kind of more of a casual and relaxed environment, I think really helps kind of makes you feel comfortable. And yeah, I think it can be awkward, but yeah, it's just, I guess it becomes more comfortable with time as well.
For sure. A next one for you too. Sorry, I'm not picking on you, but can you share with us something difficult that you've had to personally raise with Emma? Was it embarrassing? Do you feel like raising it helped you get through the struggle that you were facing?
Yeah, I guess there's the example we've talked about with the speaking up in meetings. That was something that I had a bit of an issue with when I first started at ResMed. So that was probably a little bit awkward and embarrassing to talk about at first. But another example that comes to mind is I remember a job opened up internally that I was really keen for. It was kind of exactly what I wanted to do, but it seemed way out of my league. They were asking for a lot more experience than I had. And I thought it would have been a bit crazy if I put my application in. And I spoke to Emma about it. And she pushed me to do it, helped me do my application, kind of helped me draw out all the reasons why I would be good for the job. And I think even bringing that up just at the time, the thought of me even applying for that was crazy, and it was way out of my reach. But I think that was really good to discuss with a mentor, because it kind of gave me the reassurance that I needed to apply for that.
For sure. I'm wary with the time, and I want to try to keep about 10 minutes, but we have about 5, and I've got two questions that I really want to make sure we cover before I do go through the slides. Emma, first one's for you. What would you say to someone who has never been a mentor, but they would love to? How do they make sure it works out, especially if it's their first time?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, I guess you've got to be quite honest and open yourself. So I think, interestingly, when somebody is asking you about a situation where they're looking to learn, and their fears and their concerns, one of the things I've tried to do, and it's probably, in all honesty, it'd be good to hear Lisa's point of view as to whether I have achieved this or not, but I have tried to reflect back on those equivalent moments in my career and say, actually, I remember feeling really worried about blah, or you know what, I still feel that concern today, or trying to be as open and honest as I could be as well. Because I think that one of the things that we might make the mistake as a mentor of doing, of having, hey, it's all good, people, nothing to see here, everything's in its place. Well, that's not true. And the truth of it is, I've gotten to where I am by making mistakes, by, like Lisa has said, moving forth with things, and just doing it and seeking forgiveness later and learning from that, and all the things that I've done. It hasn't been the perfect pathway for me. So I think as a mentor, it's really important to share that and to say, hey, it's not going to be this perfect pathway. It's not all going to go exactly to plan. It won't work that way. And so it's actually probably being really open yourself, that will help to show that you can make mistakes, you can get things wrong, the pathway will deviate, it'll be awkward at times, you might feel like you're going backwards. But, I remember relaying a story to Lisa and potentially other mentees about the fact that I had a patch in my career where, when I had much younger children, and I needed to take on a role that was less full on, let's put it that way. And it frustrated me while I was doing that. But interestingly, it wasn't until after I left that role that I realized what I got out of it. And I think that in the time, and it's sort of almost being able to reflect back and really openly say, look, I felt really frustrated, and I felt this and I felt that, and I wasn't being used to the fullest extent that I could. But actually what I didn't realize was, and so, I think really truly being able to reflect on yourself quite openly and quite honestly can help others to see that they will go through all those things too. That's actually normal, and you will still probably land where you want to land, or at least close to.
100%. Yeah, fantastic insight. Lisa, Kira said that she loved your point, and that imposter syndrome is real, but sounds great that you had someone that you could turn to help and encourage you to apply still.
Exactly.
Very true. I second that for sure. The last one before I go through kind of the admin part of this presentation. This has been fantastic. Thank you so much, the both of you. The last question I had is for the both of you. So feel free to share it or one of you to take it. But so someone seeking a mentor, they may be concerned with internal perception, particularly if the mentor works at the same organization. So maybe it's even fear of saying something that may, damage their future employment opportunities. What are your thoughts on this? Is having a mentor in your organization, even though you're not working directly with them, is that a risk?
I would say probably not. I think having someone within your organization is helpful at times because they know kind of the ins and outs and what different roles and responsibilities are within that organization. So I think that can be really helpful from a mentee's perspective when trying to describe what you're working on and what you kind of need help with and who's involved and all of that kind of detail. Can be really helpful. And I think also having someone kind of outside your everyday team or who's not your manager can also allow you to share kind of a little bit more information about your concerns. So like sales, for example, if I was hating work, I would never go and tell my manager that, but I might go and tell Emma, and then she could provide me with some kind of guidance or wisdom on how to kind of attack that. Yeah, that's my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. Emma, do you want to add anything to that one?
No, just really, I agree. I think that there's not there's not a reason to be concerned about that. I mean, I understand the concern, but I think in practice it's fine.
Awesome. Thank you so much to the both of you. This has been such a fantastic chat. I know that I've loved every bit of it, and we've had some great questions. So thank you everyone for sharing those questions. Does anyone want to make any last comments? And if not, I may go through some of the formalities and tell you a bit more information, everyone, on the AusYGN Speed Mentoring Program.
Hayat, I might just make one last comment and then I'll hop off.
Thanks,
but
Emma.
I just wanted to say to all of you out there listening, I'd say dive in. Just have a crack at this. You'll be surprised what you get out of it. You could not predict what you will get out of it. Keep in mind that whether it's a mentor or a mentee, their network will become your network. So, if that person needs some help with something, it's no longer just who you know, it becomes also who they know. There is so much benefit to be had. And in the short term, if for whatever reason it doesn't quite work the way you wanted it to, fine, it doesn't need to continue. You can do one round and leave it at that. But I would encourage you to have a go. And the question that's just come through, am I too old to have a mentor at 45? No way. No way. Absolutely. There's benefit to it at all points in life. And I don't think that age needs to be necessarily, depending on what it is that you're talking about. I think that there's huge value to come from having. In fact, I went for a walk yesterday with a lady who is incredibly senior and who has been teamed up in a women's leadership group with a woman who's based in Victoria, who is actually a lot more junior than her from a point of view of age, but who is an incredible person. And the lady that I was walking with is in her early 50s and incredibly accomplished. And yet the two of them, it is an equal relationship and they are getting a heck of a lot out of it. So I think that, go for it is all I can say. So it's been nice virtually meeting everyone. And because of this small thing called COVID, and since I work at eHealth, I'd better get back to my job. So nice to meet you all and good luck.
Thank you, Emma. Thank you, Emma. So lovely having you. And thank you, Lisa, so much. Good luck.
And thanks,
thank
Lisa,
you
as well. Bye.
Thanks, Emma. See you. Okay. I will share the rest of my slides. So, okay, so we'll come back to this. Can I just get a confirmation that everyone sees the slides okay? Sorry. If I can just get yep, perfect. Thank you. When I present, I can't see the chat, so okay, fantastic. So I'll just go back to that. I'm gonna I think we've spoke a lot about the role of a mentee and role of a mentor. So I'm just gonna skim through those slides and concentrate a bit more on that that mindset for a mentee for success and some mentor guidelines. I think some important things to say to a mentee. Take responsibility for that mentoring, be that agile learner and be open to feedback. Practice self-awareness, stay motivated, and as hard as it may be, it's about being able to communicate thoughts and feelings. I know I struggle with that a lot, but as you build rapport with that mentor, it becomes very easy, and the world that it can open up to, at least for me, I find when I reach out to my mentors and everyday heroes that help me out at work and outside of work, being able to communicate your thoughts and feelings and be really kind of open fosters the trust between the two and really helps for some valuable advice and key learnings. And for mentors, it's I guess really important to be able to play both the roles and be in both the mentee and mentor's kind of seat to understand both sides. Being committed is important. Active listening, you know, the mentee wants to really feel, you know, they're being vulnerable, they're opening up. It's very important to feel like that they're being heard, and yeah, be tips for being successful as well is to be open-minded, compassionate, be a role model, and care about that relationship. Some other tips for success, it's all about a careful selection of the mentor in line with someone who's in line with your personal and professional development goals. So in summary, someone who really inspires you. AusYGN is going to help out or try our best to help you out with that by gathering a really a large variety of people with different experiences and in different stages of their career. Always come prepared to your catch-up. And yeah, that foundation really is a mutual trust and respect, because it is a mutual growth opportunity. And for a mentee, your objective should be, they usually say SMART is the acronym, so specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. But yeah, it is really important, as Emma and Lisa kind of stressed, is the mentee really should be in the driving seat. You know, we're going to give you the tools to try help out, but it really is about making use of that tool and fostering that relationship. And of utmost importance is that confidentiality must be assured. I can't stress that enough on both ends, from both the mentor and mentee. The success of this relationship really is governed by that assured confidentiality and trust between the two. Apologies if anyone is asking any questions, because I have my slides, I can't see that. So I'm just going to, you know, fire through the slides, and I'll open up to see if there are any questions. So how will AusYGN support you along the way? Firstly, by trying to connect you with the exciting and experienced professionals. I mentioned really early on, we've been working really hard in the background. You know, we're reaching out to technical leads, to project managers, general managers, executive level people, people at, you know, at ANSTO, but also other industries as well, related industries. There's a breadth of knowledge and experience as part of our mentor list, and it's really exciting, and we're going to try do the best we can to help you pair up with someone who's the most aligned with your personal and professional goals. The main events and the main way that we will be helping is with a speed mentoring session. So we've eyed out the 26th of August. Stay tuned for more details and register for that event. From now till then, what we'll be doing in the background is trying to help organize, or help work with you so that in that speed mentoring session, you're put to meet, you know, a couple or a few mentors that would be aligned with your personal professional goals, and kind of like a speed dating thing. Instead of a speed mentoring session, you'll go through the session, and we're hoping that that's kind of giving you a tool, and it will be able to facilitate a mentoring relationship for you, and that you can go out of that session going, yeah, actually that person that I met, I really do want to catch up, and I want them to be my formal mentor, so that it gives you the opportunity to be able to reach out and start your mentoring journey with them. Also a reminder that if you look at our AusYGN website, we have a grants program available. this is something that we really want to re-advertise as part of this event. So if you find in your mentoring journey that, you know, there's a workshop or there's some kind of training that you want to do and it's aligned with a mentoring experience, feel free to apply. And we've got budget for some grants, and we're happy to really support you with them and in line with this program. If the speed mentoring session doesn't work out for you and your potential mentors that you meet during that session doesn't work out, we'll also be there to be able to help connect you with the pool of mentors that we are collecting and see if we can find you someone else that you can reach out to and facilitate a relationship with yourself. Also, we'll have networking events, so it will be continued events where you'll be able to meet both your mentor and other potential mentors where, you know, you may be able to have your own kind of mentoring relationship with. So we will facilitate this mentoring session and the speed mentoring session for you. And then from there, it really is up to you how you take that tool to make sure that this program works for you. What I'm doing today here is going to give you some suggestions for that structure and what that may look. The first important thing is that we suggest an upfront discussion with your mentor. So after the speed session, and if you're sure that, you know, you want to proceed with a mentoring relationship with them, check with them, ask them about the availability for regular catch-ups so that whatever structure you work out with them, it's something that suits both parties. We stressed in the Q&A the importance of defining a short-term period. I really think that's personally important, but also being a period that works for both you and your mentor. So both parties need to have this discussion where they agree during the first catch-up. Do you want this to be 3 months, 6 months, shorter, longer? We do advise shorter periods, and then naturally, if they are a success, you'll organically grow either a longer relationship or find someone else that you'd want to have a mentoring relationship with too. Suggested frequency, again, it's in your court, but we suggest either once a month or fortnightly, and session times of 1 hour or half an hour. Usually those who choose fortnightly go with the half an hour session and monthly more an hour session. I personally found that an hour monthly was very useful for me personally, but it is completely in your court. And, you know, is it goal-based? Is it role-based? It's completely in your control. You can shape it to be in a way and you can get the most out of this experience. So do come prepared to your sessions, bring your burning issues, be respectful for each other's time, and always set aside time to reflect if that structure is working or if something needs to change, and be open with your mentor, and mentors also be open with your mentees about that, just to make sure this works and is successful beyond that speed mentoring session that will help facilitate for you for those that are interested and sign up. So I have this quote up here from, not myself, I've stolen it from Isaac Newton, but it's, if I've seen further, it's by standing on the shoulder of giants. And really, yeah, mentors are giants with a vast variety of experience and gems to share. So it really is all about that. And just at the end, I'm 2 minutes over time, so apologies. Just want to, while I am here and have all of you here, just a bit of a reminder, this on the AusYGN website, we've got an events page, and there are some upcoming webinars. There's one by NSW, which is Introduction to the Law of Nuclear Energy, and one by IAEA on Women in Information and Computer Security in a Nuclear World. So please check those out, and always sign up so that you can be made aware of our upcoming events. And so that's all I had formally. I'm just going to go back to any questions. Thank you, everyone, for the amazing feedback. Yes, thank you, Caitlin. We can share these slides with you all after, so you'll be able to refer to these. Does anyone have any last-minute questions? If not, I'll let you all go back to your days. I really hope that today was impactful, that you've been able to get something out of, you know, the questions we've asked Emma and Lisa. And thank you so much for all your questions and, you know, really participating with us to make it successful. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe.